Once again, this is the Cloud Foundry on Kubernetes Working Group Forum. Thank you everyone who's attending right now. This is sort of the forum to talk about concerns and things that are going on in the space. So I believe the first topic is from Tim about archiving the CFCRD explorations repo.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd bring this up here. So we were using this repo like early on when we were playing around with CRDs and building out some controllers. And it's now just kind of dead because we have our real repo now, K8s controllers, where we do all of our development. And I was thinking when we do future spikes, we'll just do them as forks of that repo since the code's much newer. I was wondering if folks had any opposition or were otherwise didn't want me to archive this repo. I was thinking of just updating its README to point to the real one and close it out.
I think it makes sense to me. We already archived the API repo and we merged it together with the controllers repo. So there's already precedent for archiving some of that stuff. So I think it's a good idea. Welcome to our newest addition to the group. We just got started on our first topic, which was the archiving of the Spike repo we had from some of our exploratory work. Feel free to drop any topics you want to discuss in chat, and we can add them to this document that I've dropped a link to. If there are no more comments on archiving that, we should probably move on to the hot topic.
Just in terms of working group mechanics, I guess if we have archived repos, we don't keep them as part of the assets of the working group anymore. So we should probably update the description of the working group charter to reflect that, and the API one, if that's for sure gone.
Yeah, they've been merged together, so that makes sense. Cool. See another person trickling in. So let's do that and move on to the next topic, which is sort of the hot discussion topic, is the Log4j CVE issue. The K8s controllers repo never had an issue with this because we don't have any Log4j issues. The CF for K8s project was susceptible, but yesterday, thanks to some people working to push out some various patches, UA has been updated in release 5.3.1, and then KPAC was bumped. And so that KPAC version, as well as associated build packs, have all been bumped for a 5.4.0 release. So you can opt for the immediate patch the core infrastructure or the longer tail of patch all of the build packs and everything. So those are all available. Any questions or comments related to that?
The patch setup that we're seeing, it's just somebody's changing a parameter around. Is that going to be the official response to the Log4j stuff?
I can't speak for everyone. There is the mitigation that was posted to sort of make the problem a little bit less severe. I didn't look into the specifics in the patch for the UA or the build packs themselves. I just sort of contacted the people that were involved in that, and they said that they had updated to mitigate the problem. So I can follow up more if we want to know specifically what those changes are. You can probably also dig in the UA repo as well as in the build pack to see what the actual code changes. Eric, do you have any more information?
No, I don't really have specifics other than what's been released to date in the actual repos.
Yeah, so definitely something I can follow up on. And if you'd like to sort of keep that line of communication going, definitely drop a line in the K8s dev channel or any of the K8s related channels in the open source Cloud Foundry Slack.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. I see we have one more topic from Eric, which is using one of the projects for a public roadmap.
Yeah, sure. I think we'd maybe had a little bit of discussion of this in prior meetings or in Slack or something. But one of the things that each working group should be doing is keeping some sort of public roadmap, and we feel like we'd already been doing a lot of that work with the proposals board. So I wanted to, at least for us to discuss within the working group, whether we wanted to kind of make that more official in terms of the set of assets for the working group. And then I actually think that the TOC has been finding it useful to make sure that we're looking over and trying to close out, say, the open PRs on the community repo during each week's meeting. And so we could maybe try to do something similar for the proposals and maybe even pre-proposals or topics that we put on that roadmap board. Maybe like in these biweekly sessions, at least take a review of that and make sure that we're closing things out or we're getting resolution on things, especially if there's time considerations. So anyway, I just wanted to raise that as an idea. I think this is going to be the last meeting for the year, but that might be something we could try to start do a little more diligently if we think it's a good idea in January. And of course, we can do async review of those things too.
I think it makes sense. It'll probably be a lot easier to work on now that we have congealed a bit of the core of some of the new projects. Was probably a little bit difficult before, given the rate at which we were trying to turn stuff over. But I think that makes sense to try to maintain that public roadmap at this point. As you pointed out, the next meeting, and I'll mention this again at the end here, the next meeting is going to be in January, since in 2 weeks from now, I think everyone around the world will be pretty much in vacation zone. So we opted to cancel that one.
I also think this will be a good idea. I actually wanted to raise this, but I seem to have forgotten, because I don't think we maintain that proposals list very well. Some of the proposals have been staying with like expired deadlines for a while. So I think when we start in January, it will be like a good first pass so that we can sort it. And also maybe a question to Eric, do you obviously you think it's a good way to present our public roadmap? Can you point us to other work groups, public roadmaps, to see if we're missing something like a column or I don't know, some kind of things to track?
Yeah, I haven't looked in detail at what the other working groups have been producing for their roadmaps. I think they're still also getting that figured out. But I think that totally makes sense to kind of take a look at what the other working groups are doing and have some cross working group discussion about common practices or formats.
So yeah, I guess it fits really nice with my desire to update this thing and keep it more up to date if we regularly look at it. And also, I'm pretty sure we're missing columns. Like, for example, the multi-cluster support is something that we raised. It's probably not as high prio as other stuff, and we currently have rejected, accepted, and it's probably not, doesn't fall in either column. But I guess we can figure it out on the fly when we start reviewing stuff.
Yeah, I could see there being other states that we're missing. I mean, I think that there are going to be larger areas of functionality that we want to start representing on there, even if there's not a concrete proposal yet, just to show that, yeah, we haven't forgotten about this. We expect it to be a priority at some point, but we haven't started figuring out the details or the overall shape of it yet. Okay, well, let's see what cleanup we managed to do before the next meeting in January. But yeah, I think it'd be great for us to have as just a standing topic, look at the board, see what's getting stale on there, see what's missing.
Awesome.
Cool, sounds good.
Thank you.
we had another question posted that hopefully, Eric, you can maybe take the lead on that. And that is the beta timeline for the new efforts with CF8s controllers and all that stuff. Do you want to
Yeah,
comment on
sure.
that?
I mean, I think actually this is probably a good time to start making some more noise about where we're getting to, because we've especially once the next minor version of the V8 CLI is actually released, which I think is supposed to happen in early January. Because now we are going to be supporting, like, we've got that end-to-end CF push workflow working, and we should start publicizing this.
So yeah, I think we're shooting for having a widely available beta in the pretty near future, since we have all the basic pieces in place.
Yeah, I mean, we should think about what that looks like to have a release like on that. I guess the controllers repo is the natural place to maybe have a 0.1 or something like that.
Yeah, that's great news.
But the main thing I think we're missing right now is just like some pipelines and infrastructure around cutting releases and being able to like patch them quickly and stuff.
Yeah,
We have
Go ahead.
I have added a couple of chores about like pretty much rebuilding our pipeline, which currently resides in actions. With Concourse, everything in terms of resources is figured and set up. It's just that the reduced hands, like people are going on vacation, so we're kind of falling back on this. But I think for a release, maybe Concourse is not a hard requirement, since we can probably figure something out for actions and then just rebuild everything in Concourse when we have time. Maybe it will be the good thing to do, since we don't want to delay the beta because of like internal infrastructure things, and I don't think we'll be missing functionality in terms of actions, GitHub actions. So just react when the time comes, I guess.
I agree. It's not like a hard requirement. It's just like I think it would be nice to have at least concrete like stories like placed on our board and stuff around the time of the first like beta release, so that like the second one people can see like it better. I just like, I know we can make do with the GitHub actions. It's just like I like have some doubts about its ability to like adequately like integration tests and everything that we might want.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess we have this conversation and we have agreed that we want Concourse. So, I mean, if you on the American side have free capacity, feel free to pick up some of those chores. Unfortunately, we haven't had time to talk through them, but I guess you can just take a look and ask if there's something unclear. I think it's relatively clear. I've kind of created a small roadmap that will, pretty much replicate what we have in actions in Concourse, and we can add to that if you want to cut releases and things, as we have been doing for the past years, working with the CF community.
To provide a little bit of context for some of the people who are maybe not familiar with all of this, we implemented a lot of our CI tasks in GitHub Actions for this go around to keep it sort of close to the repo, make it pretty visible and well integrated with GitHub PRs and all that. We found that there are some shortcomings, that it's not quite as fleshed out as Concourse, but there are some benefits. So we're moving some of the stuff over to Concourse, which should still be a publicly accessible Concourse, but then keeping some of the more quick tests, like unit tests and whatnot, the quick feedback, easy tasks in GitHub Actions.
Yeah, for example, the PR, building PRs will definitely stay as a GitHub action because it makes way more sense. But I guess the continuous integration part of the pipeline will live in Concourse, which includes cutting releases and other things.
Cool. If there are no more comments on that, looks like Ron is putting in one more topic. I'm going to give just a moment to finish the thought there. I can read off part of it anyway. Do we know what the installation process is going to look like for the sort of CF on K8s?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of background, if you're thinking of publicizing the quote unquote beta version and things like that, I guess one of the first steps is how do you install this on a cluster? Like, how do you get this running on a cluster? So I'm just curious if you're going to continue the YTT and CAP route, and the Carvel tools in general, or I remember some murmurs about wanting to use customize and things like that. So is that going to be possible?
At the moment, we are not using YTT. We're sticking with the customized stuff we got out of the box from KubeBuilder and then implementing some of the customized stuff on our own. We decided to go that way for the moment to keep it sort of as simple as possible without introducing additional tools that people need. And we didn't feel the need to have some of the advanced configuration. And if you did want that, you could manually hand change that. If we find at a certain point we need to have some of that additional functionality, we'll talk about whether we want to bring in that tool set. But for the moment, it's going to pretty much rely on the tooling that the Kubernetes community is familiar with. So that means customize and basically declaratively just bring everything in some YAML file rather than interpolating a bunch of values. As for what that looks like for when you actually install it, we probably will have some unsupported bits to make it easy to get all your dependencies running. But the assumption is usually you will want to configure all of those supporting bits yourself as prerequisites, such as like KPack and whatnot. But then have it pretty easy to actually deploy the thing. Right now you can do it with the make file. There's a couple tasks where you can just deploy it really easily onto a cluster. So I imagine something similar, but it is an area where we'd probably like feedback as to what people feel the best experience is.
Got it. Thanks.
One note on the customized thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was also under the impression that customize was something that we would use internally, but we would like basically render like standalone YAML that we could include with releases. So like by default, people could just kubectl apply that YAML without having to install these things. But if they wanted to tweak it, they could use customize, they could use YTT, they could like bring their own like YAML manipulation thing.
Yeah, that is one thing we've been doing, which is committing a reference YAML that is everything that comes out of the customized setup. So it's just a raw YAML file you could just drop onto a cluster. So that is sort of the ease of use target for further customization, of the CF K8s controllers repo itself. So yes, that was a goal, to have it as something that where you can just do a kubectl apply this file and it just works.
I mean, I think, are there going to be a few kind of environment specific parameters in that? Would we just have defaults that resolve to like localhost or something if there's a domain, for example?
Yeah, pretty much just have some defaults that might not be
vcap.me.
Might not be ideal, but those would be the points where you would actually want to go update them if you wanted to manipulate your configuration. And as Tim said, you could either just update that reference YAML yourself, or you could go through the same process of using customize, because the make targets make it pretty easy to spit that out. Alrighty, I think that's the end of the topics I see. I can open the floor to anything someone wants to suggest, or we can get some minutes back in our day. You're mostly crickets, so I think it will be one of those cases where we give people some time back. thank you all for attending this very special edition of the Working Group Forum. Some good topics, and I'll try to follow up on the UA and buildpacks fixes. A reminder that the next meeting in 2 weeks will not be happening because it is smack dab in the middle of holiday season for everyone, and we don't want to have everyone crawl out of bed or whatever time you're in to attend this meeting in the middle of festivities. So the next meeting will be the following 2 weeks in January. So I'd love to see you all there, and we'll be tackling all the new topics fresh in the new year. So it should be exciting.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.